G'day guys, welcome back to Beers and Breakevens, our fullback analysis for season 2025. A couple of tough carries over the last few weeks, hooker and front row forward, but I'll tell you what, for the first time in my life, Timbo, I'm one off the ruck saying, might hit up. I'll take one. I'm ready to go.
There's a first for everything, mate. That's good from you. Oh, really?
Very rare.
Jeez.
Very rare. So, very excited. I think, mate, this is the cherry on top when it comes to the SuperCoach positions. There's probably not as many to talk about, but I think it's probably the most important one.
It's the best. It's the funnest position to talk about for sure. As you said, the biggest upside from round one and throughout the season. So it's definitely the most important. The fact that so many of these players are starting so highly priced, if they start slow, it can be big cash drops. Then you're faced with decisions, do I hold or stick strong? Or it's the one you really do need to get right. It can be the difference between 150 points from a player in round one and 50 points if you get it wrong. The other best thing about it is you say there's probably, in terms of the popular selections in the game, there's probably 5 or 6 that people are going for. But then 7, 8, 9 and 10 could also average 100 across the first 5 weeks. It's 100%. The best.
And I think within those 5 too, there's only 5 that I'm seeing constantly, but depending on which 3 of those 5 you take, your team looks completely different.
Yeah.
And it shapes up wildly. Yeah, so super excited to get stuck into this one. Kat, I'll bring you in quickly. We are in the new studio, so we're still sorting out lighting and whatnot. But Mandu, how are we?
I'm very well, thank you. Yes, we're still figuring things out, but very excited to be in the new studio. We're making some changes with... It actually probably looks much the same to those on YouTube. So welcome back. But it is a completely different space. So, yeah, like I said, we're very excited about it, but kind of just figuring out the tweaks at the moment. So just bear with us.
Yeah, 100%. We'll be sweet. But, very, very exciting. Guys, I've got my Kangaroo Tour hats for Las Vegas. They're going on sale on Monday night, so stay tuned for details there. If you're in the Roo Crew, they will be live on Sunday. They obviously get early access and a little discount if you're part of the Roo Crew. We'll also have a SuperCoach competition strictly for the Roo Crew. It'll be a $10 entry, and I'm not going to take a cent from it. All the prize money is going to go back to you guys. So if we get 400 people in there, that's $4,000 cash prize. I'll let you know details over the next week or two, but stay tuned. And for the love of God, don't join every SuperCoach comp you see, because there's a couple of big ones coming your way between Beers and Breakevens, Roo Crew, SC Playbook already up.
We're up and about.
Go and join that one, but leave yourself 2 spaces there. Don't be a dickhead. Speaking of dickheads, my favourite one. What's doing?
You've already brought me in.
What's doing with SC Playbook? Talk to me. What's doing?
Mate, we're up and about. Subscription popping off. WhatsApp popping off. Actually recording, Roo, my first subscriber-only podcast filmed as well from studio this afternoon.
Fuck yeah.
Looking at the super pods for round one, the sub probably 5 to 10% ownership. Getting up and about there. That'll be on the website on Thursday. But yeah, that's it. They said the WhatsApp doing some good stuff there. A lot of team news, a lot of feedback between everyone. So get amongst it.
Super exciting. How good. SC Playbook. Go and have a look, guys. And podcast dropped last night.
Podcast dropped last night. Myself, Desi Creek, the 2019 champion, Maxie Bryden, Matty the water boy, getting up and about this year. He's getting very excited, Matty. He's out of that rookie phase now, and he started transitioning into someone who might actually be a bit of a competitor. It's exciting.
I hope so. What's Desi up to, the rogue little unit? What's been it now? Desi, I listen to half the things he says, and I just think I can't make sense of that. But he consistently finishes in that top 1,000, if not higher. What's the roguest one he's had so far?
I'm trying to think off the top of the head, but he's mind-blowing, Desi. I'm the same. I don't agree with about 98% of things he says, but just, like I said, he's won it before. He's top 1,000 most years. He finished, I think, 200 or 300 last year. I don't know how he does it. I cannot work the bloke out, but he comes out with some rare shit.
Yeah, and sometimes I look at guys like him and I go, I don't think they know how they do it either, but I think he does. There's method to all of his madness, which I love to see. Make sure you go and catch up on that episode. Shall we get stuck into some fullbacks, Timbo?
Before we do, mate.
Yeah.
What's on Sunday?
What's on Sunday?
Big screen preview.
10 a.m. Sunday, the 9th of February on Channel 9. The Jack, the golf tournament that we went up to a few weeks ago. Really wasn't that long ago. It feels like ages ago now. There's like what would you describe it as? Kind of a documentary or a...
Well, yeah, I mean, basically they have a deal with Channel 9 and
Yep.
Fox, and they create a broadcast package that is essentially a 45-minute highlight reel of all the best bits, which encompasses obviously the tournament that you won, which was the creators.
Don't give it all away.
I mean, it's all over socials.
And I haven't shut up about it.
Yeah.
Well, I think what happened was there wasn't going to be a documentary. Then Rue created history, and they said we need to 30 for 30 ESPN type, doco this, and they have.
Look, I'll put it this way: it's the greatest sporting moment, not only of my life, but of my children's and my children's lives.
It's
special.
very Bradbury territory, possibly better.
Incredible.
People, they won't be talking about the Luca trade when this goes live.
No.
Not at all. So 10 a.m. Channel 9. Make sure you are there. I'll be honest with you guys. There's a little part of me. I was telling the old man about it earlier this morning. There's a little part of me that's excited about us all having to watch something at the same time, and it's be there
Doesn't
or be
happen
square.
much,
It doesn't
does it?
happen much anymore. I know it always used to be 6 p.m. Simpsons zone in. It's not like that anymore. I'm looking forward to it on Sunday.
Wednesday night, I think Channel 9, 8:30, Prison Break. If you missed it, doesn't matter. You're behind. Had to be there.
Thursday night, 9:30. If you missed out on Vorton and Sterlo doing their thing, that was
You
it.
weren't watching it.
Gonski.
And and Big Brother. Is it not?
spoke about
Is it
this
how
the other
weird
day.
is it to think back to a period of time where we all tuned into Big Brother? We all just watched a bunch of bogans in a house on the Gold Coast. And if you didn't know what was going on, that's your loss. But you needed to be tuning into that every single night.
Nowadays, they're tuning into two bogans on a lounge.
Yeah, 100%. Love it. Wouldn't have it any other way. All right.
Let's do it.
That's enough fuck around. Let's get stuck in. Guys, what we're going to do, we're going to go through the fullbacks, and we're just going to go on the SuperCoach app, go to players, and we're just going to go down the list and talk about all the guys that pop up. But there will be a couple of key ones, obviously, that are very, very relevant. Let's kick off, mate, with the man at the top of the list, 94 average last year. People said he was dead in the water. Bounced back with a huge season, 920K. James Tedesco. What are your thoughts on him, mate?
I'm not keen just because of his ridiculous starting price, which is absolutely warranted because he went berserk last year. He had 11 tons in 21 games. That's a joke. He had a 4 in 23 minutes against the Dogs, bringing that average down a little bit as well. He had, from round 12 onwards, where he played just about every game, he averaged 109.
Wow.
Yeah.
From round 12 onwards.
Yeah. Had 2 tons in his first 3 games last year as well, including 135. So when I speak about, as I mentioned at the top of the show, he's probably not in there's players who aren't in my top 4 or 5 picks at fullback. But you look at 6, 7 and 8, there's someone like Teddy who had 11 tons in 21 games last year, minus his injury game. Not for me purely because of starting price. I just think there's better value in the position, but certainly one to target early on.
And just on top of that, sort of why we're not keen on him, yes, there is the price. I also personally, I don't have the Roosters going all that well this season. I understand the argument that Teddy's going to do more work. He'll be more involved, which I think will keep him relevant. But, mate, even if he drops 12 in his average, which is enormous, it's still an 80-point SuperCoach season, which is a great knock.
Exactly right. And if he has to average what did he finish last year? 95 average or something?
94, I think it was.
94 average. He has to average 94 early on to make sure he doesn't drop any value. So I'm sort of looking at it going, if you can come out and have a cracking start to the year and still average 80, cool, maybe I can pick him up in round 5 or 6 at a 150, 200K discount. The other thing to note with these high-end, top-dollar players is you never wish it upon anyone, but if someone does cop a head knock in a game early or a little injury and they're forced from the field and they do have that 5 or 10 point game at that price, you're getting them at a 200K discount.
Yeah. I think the other thing with Teddy and, I'm looking at the next 5 names we're going to talk about. All of them will play State of Origin. James Tedesco will not, in my opinion. If he is 800K by that point, he'll become I'm sure Teddy's going to be relevant at some point.
Oh,
I have
absolutely
no doubt
will.
about that whatsoever. So, not for us to start with, but we'll get to him eventually. Tommy Turbo, mate, 875K, which almost feels like a discount with Turbo. I'm sure you might have some better analysis to throw at people. I'm just too scared not to have him. That's sort of the end of the road for me. I'm too scared not to have Turbo. I will be starting with him, whether it's fullback, flex, whatever it might be. He will be in my team. What are your thoughts on Tommy?
My thoughts on Guru are very different little attitude to this time last year, Roo, when you were slamming me about my Tommy Turbo love.
You said he'd average 135 again.
Wrong. I said he could, and he could do it again.
Oh, fucking bullshit. It's not going to happen. It was the 2021. I'm not doing this again with you. I'm starting with him, but don't even bother. That would put him at about $1.4 million in SuperCoach, which is outrageous. I do not think a player will ever average above 115. That's my take for you, okay? So 135 is outrageous.
You're an idiot. He could do it this year. Anyway, he's in my team, if you haven't got the gist.
He'd want to be in your fucking team after that.
So I'm starting without Tom Trebojevic. Their draw is the big kicker. So they start the year with game against the Cowboys at home, Warriors away, Raiders at home, Eels at home. They play 3 bottom 8 sides from last season in the opening 4 games. The other one is the Cowboys, who A, I don't have them in my top 8 this year, and B, even from a SuperCoach standpoint, playing them in Townsville is a fantastic track for SuperCoach scoring. So the draw couldn't be that much, too much better. 4 of his opening 5 games are at Brookvale Oval. I just think he's terrific. Started last year with a 77.4 average across the first 5 games. The last one of those was 111 against Penrith, which is just unheard of. He then finished the season with an average of 104 in his final 8 games. That was coming back from an injury. So, mate, you don't have to have him because of the calibre of fullbacks that you can go with elsewhere, but he'll be in my team.
I almost disagree. I think you do have to have him. I think not having him is going to be a mistake, and maybe someone else jump out of the ground. You know, there's a lot of talented players we're going to talk about, but as I said at the start, I am petrified not to have him, and I personally think it'll be a mistake not to have him. So he is an absolute certainty in my side. Anything else on Tommy Turbo?
No.
Let's move to Latrell Mitchell. Another one that I've got in my side at the moment, 866K. I think they've got a reasonably tough start to the season from memory.
Dolphins away, Dragons away, both. I mean, away from home is never great, but not bad. Quite good fixtures, to be fair. Sharks away, very tough. Panthers at home, Roosters at home. So first couple of weeks not bad, then it gets tougher.
Yeah, it's not ideal, but it's not a total train wreck, actually. Like, I'm okay with the Sharky. Penrith is the real concern there, but like I'm not as concerned about the Roosters.
Sharks at Shark Park's pretty tricky fixture early on in the season.
Yeah, fair. I don't know. Sharkies are going to Vegas. They're going to North Queensland. Yeah, I think Latrell will be okay to start the season. I think he'll average around about that 80, 90 sort of mark.
The big thing about Trell is he's probably the most fixture-proof of any fullback, right?
Yeah, I think so, yes. I think as well, the Gold Kings obviously done it over the last few years as well, but, that always helps. And if Campbell Graham does miss the first few weeks, I think that makes him very left-side dominant. I think that only helps Trell Mitt. So a lot of positives there for me. Obviously, Wayne Bennett's arriving back there. I think it's fair to say, mate, just eyeballing Latrell, he just looks fitter, I'd argue, than he probably ever has. Take out maybe when he was 18, 19, but ever since he's had his man body, I think he looks fitter now than he ever has. Yeah.
Like we talk about the preseason eye test, and that when we say that, we refer to the trial games and how they look in those. He's like preseason eye test. He looks good in photos and in videos on social. He looks so fit, doesn't he?
And I think as well, mate, with Latrell, he is the number 1 player in this competition. It's all about body language for me with Latrell.
Yeah.
And, this preseason, I think it just looks completely different to me. He's smiling all the time. He's up and about. Whenever he gets picked for Origin, you can just see that he's just a different guy. And I think Wayne's just got that out of him at the moment.
Yeah, agreed. He first 5 games last year averaged 73.6. That included 110 in Vegas. The first 5 rounds of 2023, he only averaged 60.4. But he did then go on in round 6 to 9 to go 146, 121, 102, 96. As it stands in my team, I'm and this could easily change throughout the preseason, but I'm looking at it probably tossing up Ponga v Latrell to partner Tommy Turbo.
Okay, are you genuinely like 50-50 on them at the moment, or who are you leaning towards?
Ponga.
Really?
Yep.
Ooh, okay.
We'll get to him shortly, but a great draw as well. Latrell looks good. I want to see the bunnies. I want to see Latrell play some footy and see what he looks like. If he comes out and dominates like we know he can, I'll probably just put him straight in and flick KP. But that's probably a good segue into KP.
Yeah, okay. Let's go to Kalyn Ponga then, yeah? 790K up there at Newcastle, goal kicking, one of these fullbacks, goal kicks once again. I have serious concerns about Newcastle this year, mate. I think they're my number one team to drop out of the top 8. I think that there's a lot more going on at Newcastle that I think wins against poor teams have covered at the back end of last season. The halves, it looks like there's going to be a shake-up there once again. I'm sure there will be at round 2 as well. I just have no faith in Newcastle right now. I think they're a middle short, and I think that will start to impact KP. He is an absolute freak, though. There's no denying that. But, yeah, I feel safer with Trell and Turbo over KP. Talk me into him, mate.
Yeah. I said very on the fence with him in Latrell, but draw to open the season is very good, minus a little bye in round 4, which is a bit annoying. But he has Tigers away, Dolphins at home, Titans away, the bye, Bulldogs away, probably the only tough fixture there. Then he plays the Tigers again at home. The draw is unreal, but you do wedge in the bye. Doggies away, based on last year, it's tough.
It should be tough,
but
yeah.
The Dogs have to do it again. Yep. Like the thing with the Doggies is, and I think they make the 8 this year and play some good footy. How many teams have we seen, and good quality teams, have one good year and then regress and fall back the year after? Like, there's a target on their back now. There wasn't last year.
Yep.
By the back end of the season there was, but they're just teams will view them in a completely different light this year. So we'll see. Around Ponga, opened last season with scores of 50 and 45. Then went nuts, averaged 84.3 across the opening 6 weeks of the season prior to that injury. So that's including that 50 and the 45.
Yep.
That included games against the Storm, Roosters and the Warriors in New Zealand. Excluding his injury game last season, he had 6 tons and 2 90s across his 14 games with a low of only 45. That was kind of the one for me that went, oh boy, that is some good scoring. Excluding his injury-impacted games in 2023, he played 16 games and had 6 tons and 4 90s. So I have the same concerns with you about the Knights. I'm not convinced on how well they're going to go. That being said, there's no reason why, particularly with those fixtures, that KP can't carve up anyway. Yeah.
I'll tell you, just looking at that draw as well, the other advantage that I like, obviously Tigers round 1, I think it's going to take the Tigers a while to put it all together. Got the Dolphins at home. Mate, I love when I get a fullback playing on the Gold Coast. I love that track up there. It's
fantastic
unreal.
away fixture for SuperCoach.
Yeah, it is. That buy in round 4 isn't ideal. Mate, if you're going to start with Kalyn Ponga, I'm sort of happy to get a buy out of the way kind of early. I think that, copping one buy here and there, it was one thing I learned from last year, or one thing that I took away. I don't think it was as much of an issue as what people carried on with it. We'll get to, guys throughout this preseason that have buys in round 1 and round 2 and whatnot, and I don't think it matters as much. So,
are you like a line through KP, or are you a
mate? It's not so much I've got a line through KP. It's more so I'm just sold on Latrell and Turbo.
Yeah, fair.
I just think they're too good. If people want to go KP and go a little bit different, mate, you're playing 3 bottom 8 teams. You play the Tigers twice in the first 6 weeks. Like, I get it. 100% I can make sense of it. And you know what? If the Knights come out and they look unreal in trials and, whichever halves pairing they choose, or that, there's a forward that jumps out of the ground and they look different all of a sudden, I'll reassess. But at the moment, Latrell and Turbo just look too appealing to me.
Yeah, and the difference between probably Latrell and Ponga is if the Knights struggle early and don't turn up and struggle for points, KP scores will suffer. If the Bunnies are underwhelming again, Latrell can still score quite well.
Yes,
I think. Ponga currently at 31% ownership. Tommy Turbo at 31% ownership. Latrell at 26% ownership. So
wow, that's wild to me.
How so?
Just
like Ponga v Latrell and Turbo, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought Turbo would be close to an automatic guy. I assume Iongi's a lot higher than those guys.
Iongi's at 50%.
Okay, so I guess that takes up one spot.
Yeah.
Then. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't know. I'm very sold on Latrell and Turbo. I wouldn't push against anyone that went KP, but I think Latrell and Turbo are the ones for me. Mate, Dylan Edwards, 839K, the next man on our list. I was listening to the weekly rubdown the other day, obviously draft content, but, points are points. A lot of those points he scored throughout the season obviously came during that period where Nathan Cleary wasn't playing. That lifts his average quite a bit. He's not a goal kicker. Maybe without Jerome Luai, he takes up a little bit more, Dylan Edwards, but I don't think it's the play for me, not at 839K anyway.
Yeah, priced on a huge 2024 season.
Yeah.
He went bonkers. And he said, I haven't run the exact numbers on him with and without Cleary yet, but he dominated without him, didn't he? Like, he was scoring tons for fun because his role in attack just elevated so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, you throw in Vegas. I don't love that for players. Not even necessarily the Vegas fixtures, because we saw them quite loosely adjudicated last year where there were a lot of points. So Supercoach-wise, I think that's fine. It's just sort of the impact that takes on players and teams coming out of it. Not necessarily, they get the week off, so it's not necessarily to be too sceptical, but I'm just looking because he kicked...
Well, mate, as well, like if you just have a look from round 4 to round 12, his scores were 120, 119, 89, 95, 111, 75, 120, 113.
Jeez.
Outside of that... Like, he only went above 80 2 or 3 times for the rest of the season outside of that period.
Exactly. And just goal kicking. Like,
Yeah,
when he's not
huge.
goal kicking, like, he had 124 points in goals last season that he's not going to get with
That's
it while
a lot.
Cleary's there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, And look, mate, I also think with Penrith, realistically, like, I do think they'll come back to the pack a little bit this year. I still think they'll be a top 4 side.
Yeah.
But I think they will come back to the pack a little bit. So, yeah, I think there's a number of reasons why going Dylan Edwards at the start isn't the play.
Yeah.
One guy that I will hear an argument for, mate, is Scotty Drink Bloke, 770K. I think you are safe to assume he will get the goal kicking. I ran the numbers at the start of the preseason. I think it ended up being about 12 points per game for Val that he was getting. With the goal kicking, Drinky's at a pretty similar click, a little bit lower. Let's say he gets 10 points extra a game, ballpark. If he gets that 10 extra points, I hear people talk about Drinky, Tim, and I don't know if you agree, but they say to me, he averaged 77 or whatever last year, add 10, that's almost 90. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not convinced the Cowboys to me can still be a very up and down side. Like, we spent the whole year last year arguing about whether they were the real deal or not. Their form went up and down. Like, I think without Kyle Felt, without Val Holmes, they've already got injuries in the back row. I still have my concerns about the Cowboys. Reece Robson's leaving at the end of the year and whatnot. We don't really know who the halfback is at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised if Drinky gains the goal kicking but just loses some attacking stats. And, I spoke all last year. I had him in draft. I absolutely loved having him. I also had Kyle Felt. Mate, losing Kyle Felt, that guy that he can consistently throw that 30-metre cutout ball to, I think that's, and I know there's going to be another body there, but that was the guy that he trusted. Like, Kyle Felt, I used to see him on social media all the time just giving shit to Drink, saying, fuck, you just throw passes and I just have to make it work. Like, because he trusted that guy out there. I think you'll see, I think everyone's expecting Drinky to jump up 10 points. I kind of think he'll stay around about the same, is my thoughts. What do you reckon?
Pretty similar.
Yeah.
I think he bumps up a little bit because of the goal kicking. I do think he'll improve, but I agree on the front that I just have concerns over the Cows. They've already got key injuries in, like Helam Lukey being one of them, Tommy Chester. Taumalo's under an injury cloud to start the season. Cohen is coming back from a lengthy injury layoff. There's going to be more injuries, unfortunately. And where they come, I don't know. I'm not an oracle, but I don't have the highest hopes for them this year. If they can have a good run of injuries and keep everyone on the park, they can play finals footy, absolutely. But history says there will be a few there. They're draw to start the season, Manly at Brookie, and then they go Sharks in Queensland, Broncos at Suncorp, Raiders away, then they go Penrith in Sydney, Bunnies in Perth, around 7 bye. It's a very tough draw to start the season.
That seems brutal to me.
Yeah. So there's enough signs there for me to say pass.
Yeah, for sure. They're getting on 4 planes in the first 6 weeks. They're going to 3 states, playing honestly, all those teams outside of the Raiders, I'm going to tip them to make the top 8 this year.
I was going to say Manly, Sharks, Broncos, possibly not the Raiders.
And they're not going to beat the Raiders up too. They'll put up a fight against them.
Panthers, Bunnies, like that could be the top 4, 5, 6 sort of thing.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm not keen on Drinky at all. I'm not even looking at him. I think people are getting sucked in. What percentage is he at, Tim? Can you see there? I think people are getting sucked in a little
8%.
bit to the goal kicking. Okay. Well, not too many people are, to be fair. I feel like there's a lot of talk around him, though.
About 8%. Huh?
About 8%. Good on him. Let's talk Reece Walsh, your boy. 738K. I might give you the floor here, mate. Then I'll give my thoughts. What do you got for us?
I'd love to own him, and he's currently at 9.4%, but Desi's got him at the moment. Speaking of rogue ones.
Fuck.
Yep, of course. As does Maxi Bryden, found him into his team. Draw to start the season, Roosters away, Raiders away, Cows at home, Dolphins at home, Tigers at home. It's a pretty good draw to start the season, to be fair. Crunched a few numbers this morning in non-goal kicking games, because I was sort of sitting there going, when he's not goal kicking, that takes a fair bit off him, bit of a concern. In non-goal kicking games last year, there was also one game where he kicked one goal against Penrith, try included. He averaged 84.4. So it's not to say that he needs the goal kicking. All that being said, it's a freaking huge boost when he does, to state the obvious. He averaged 75. I think he improves on that. I'm not at this stage starting with him. I can see why people are. I know you won't be keen.
Yeah, no, I'm not keen. I can understand. I think as well, mate, people getting very excited about Mads joining in the Broncos and all that sort of stuff. Like I still look at the Broncos and, I think the more that we do our job, the more I realise just how important not having noise around your club is. Brisbane's arguably got more than anyone at the moment and will continue to during this season. I love Adam Reynolds and Ben Hunt together. They're two very dominant ball players, Timmy. I'm interested to see how this gels and how quickly it gels, because Reece Walsh also demands a lot of ball out there with Madge in there as a new coach. I just think people are buying people that are going for Reece Walsh as a pod player or whatever. Like, I understand where you're coming from, but you actually don't know how Brisbane's going to play. You don't know what it's going to look like yet. It looks like there's going to be a new 9. They might be missing Adam Reynolds to start, so Ben Hunt's going to be steering the ship, which I'd love to see, and this is just vibe alone, me talking, I'd love to see the numbers of fullbacks playing with Ben Hunt because he's so ball dominant. There's a few things there that I'm concerned about. I think that the smart play on Reece Walsh is to just wait and see what Brisbane actually look like and how they're going to play in the first few weeks.
Yeah, so he had that game early last year, that nasty concussion against Penrith in round 3, scored 1 point in 4 minutes. If you take that out, his average bumps from 75 to 81.
Yep.
So starting a discount there. I'm with you. I'm happy to watch. I can see him coming out and going ton, Brisbane looking outstanding. Latrell, Ponga, whoever it might be, starting slow and having a huge break and making the move for money purposes and point, of course. I can see that happening. However, I think it's one that I want to watch play out.
I think the other one with me too, with Reece Walsh, is that, as I said, I want to see how Brisbane play, but I want to see how much of a leash he has on Reece Walsh. Because Madge, realistically, he made the huge move last year to go from James Tedesco to Dylan Edwards as his fullback. We know Dylan Edwards probably just the safest, most consistent fullback in the game. Reece Walsh over the last few years, he scores a lot of SuperCoach points, makes a lot of errors as well. But I'm okay with him doing that because I know he's going to come up with gold most of the time. I wonder if Mads just looks to really lock it down with him a little bit, which I think could potentially see him taking less risks, less SuperCoach points potentially as well. There's a few things with Madge I'm keen to see how Reece Walsh goes. The other one is, and we'll get to him in CTWs, I cannot see a world where Madge walks into Brisbane and says to Tony Staggs, I'm okay with you having 9 touches.
Yeah.
I just can't fucking see it. So there's a few guys there I'm very interested to watch how it plays out with Brisbane.
Wow, an early scoop. Roos starting with Katoni.
Won't be happening, but I may have had a sneaky little look. I'm probably, well, now that if Campbell Graham's out, we might be having a little observant there. All right, our next player on the list, got the bye round 1, Keanu Keeney, 707K. I think this guy's going to go enormous this year, Timmy. I won't be starting with him, but if he goes as well as I think he's going to go, I think at some point this year I will own this kid. I think he can average 85, 90 in this Titans side.
Yeah, well, a few stats on the SC Playbook website via Michael Fisher. Fish finished 9th a few years back. Kinney averaged 82.1 points per game when he returned to the side and made that fullback spot his own from round 10 onwards last year.
Yep.
Very, very good numbers. He said he's a base and power beast, going at 0.63 base and power points per minute, which equates to over 50 points in 80 minutes. That's before any attacking stats are added. I'm not as keen on him just because I have no idea what the Titans are going to throw up. I don't know what the spine's going to look like. I just don't trust them.
Yep.
He's also very expensive. Like he's not
Sure.
He's not priced on a 50 point. He didn't play 10 games last year where he played 20 minutes off the bench. Is the thing. Like he played big minutes and scored really well, so he's expensive. So if I'm getting him in, it's at the expense of Latrell or Ponga or Turbo or whoever, and I can't justify that.
Yep.
There's probably a little bit of value there, but I don't think there's enough value for me to warrant going him over the others. So not for me.
There will come a point this year where I go him as a pod play at some point. I guarantee. I agree with you, mate. I don't trust the Titans. I don't know what I'm going to get from the Titans. But I look at the Titans and I think they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. I love when they play at home. And, mate, I hate the decision they're making with their halves. But if they're going with AJ Brimson, Jaden Campbell, that says to me they're going all out on points. They are trying to outscore football teams. And Keanu Kenny, I think he's one of the fittest blokes in the competition already. He's a freak. You saw what he did for New Zealand. That's the other thing as well. I think that second-year syndrome's a worry for people. Had he not gone and played for New Zealand, did what he did, I think I'd be more concerned about that. I just think they are just going to be all-out points. I think they're going to have to score 28-plus points in a lot of games to win. And I think Hasler's leaning into halves that they're a little bit unorthodox, but they're just going to try and blow teams away.
They will. That just like is red flags to me. I just see that combination being clunky. If they do go with Campbell and Brimson in the halves, I hope they don't. I hope it's foreign, but maybe it works. We know the talent's there, but I just see a lack of organisation.
Yep.
The other thing I will say, if they do go Brimson in the halves over foreign is the best at the game at squaring up, attracting defenders and creating that space for the fullback out the back. Jaden Campbell actually does that very well too. But I think that could impact Kinney. But I said, I don't know what it's going to look like.
100%. Yeah, I agree. And for the
exciting.
record, I would go foreign every day of the week. I think they're crazy not to go with Foz. But if they go with these two and it's all out attack and if Hasler gets the best out of that forward pack, they can compete with the best in the competition, that whole pack. And if they do and they're rolling, this kid could be absolutely lethal.
Yeah. And the other thing to add into it is like Foreign isn't a noted SuperCoach scorer. He creates a space for players.
Yep.
Jaden Campbell is, AJ Brimson is, which means there's going to be points taken from them, potentially from Kinney. I don't know. It all might work. I'm not going to do it, but one that I can see in my team early, if he's not so damn injury prone, but it is AJ Brimson because he's available at CT Dub. To have a gun 5'8" available at CT Dub with upside, I like him, but the bloke can't string games together.
Yeah,
but
that's
anyway.
the concern. Mate, let's jump down a little bit. 616K, Ryan Pappenhausen. I think he's probably the last name of the big 6 or 7 that I'm hearing people talk about. Without the goal kicking, I get he's at 600K. I just think there's too many points that I want to grab elsewhere. What are you thinking with Pappy?
I'm not going to go him. If anything happened where he started goal kicking, God will throw a cat amongst the pigeons in the fullback slot because he becomes the value play.
100% he does. Yep.
Taking out his 2 injury-affected games last season, he averaged 66.3 points. If you take out the 2 games that he returned from lengthy injury layoffs, that average bumps to 71.2. Go out to 2022, he averaged 90 points and he was like a must-have. I probably can't start with him. Well, I'm not going to be starting with him without goal kicking, but I think everyone's expecting big things from the Storm this year. They're almost premiership favourites. He could explode.
He could explode, yeah. There's just a lot of mouths to feed in that spine, isn't there, as well? That's the other thing I don't love with Pappy, that you've got, on their day, you could have the best 9, 7, 6 and 1 in the competition.
I think the beauty of Pappy is at that price of he's 616K. It's so cheap.
Yeah.
If he does come out and explode, whilst you wouldn't love doing it, it is an easy move from one of those 850, 900K, whatever it is, fullbacks that you go with. Like, let's say you go Latrell or Ponga at sort of, you go Latrell at 866K, he opens up with 50-50. Pappy comes out and goes ton. Latrell's going to have a break even of negative 170 or 180, and Pappy's going to have positive, about 180. Pappy would be about negative 50, and you could flip him down. It's easy to do, and it'll free up cash. What are you giggling at?
I agree with you 100%. I was about to say the same thing. Do you know when his first buy is? It's round fucking 2. So you might have to fall on your sword for one price, right? Like if the guys come out and go 50-50, it's not. It's definitely not fucking ideal. But mate, I agree with you. The tough thing is he plays Parramatta week 1, who I think under a new coach, I think they'll show a pulse that first week. By Penrith. Like if it was 2 bottom sides, I think it could get really interesting very quickly. But I still agree with what you said, mate. 616 is just so cheap. And honestly, buying round 2, Penrith in week 3, if we knew he was goal kicking, there's every chance I start with him.
Yeah, same.
100%. So it's just that goal. As you said, a few years ago, I had him in draft that season. He was averaging 90. I think if you take out his injured games, it was close to 100. That was with goal kicking, though, and he was doing a fuckload of it in that side.
To be fair, if he goal kicks, he'll be doing a shitload of it this year as well.
100%.
But I think he's an easy round 4 pickup if he's flying.
Yeah.
And he doesn't, especially at that price, he doesn't need the goal kicking at that price. It'd just help a lot, to state the obvious.
Agreed. Okay, should we, before we get into some mid-range and stuff, mate, I guess Iongi's the other one that we need to talk about. 232K. I had my concerns. I still have some concerns, but I think you have talked me around. He's 232K. There's not much he can do wrong. I think you had a stat the other day you mentioned to me that sort of turned my head a little bit about the minimum average for fullbacks over the last year. I think it was like 40 or something. Will Kennedy, I think it was. So if he does that, sweet, we're making 150K. So I think I'm falling on my sword there. I know a lot of people still aren't starting with Iongi and they're going with the points and whatnot. I think I will at the moment. Where do you sit on him?
He's been in my side since it opened.
Yeah.
I just don't like the fact that he averages 45 to 50 and makes a ton of cash with an upside of, all right, what if he does average 60 to 70? Fullbacks are gun scorers in SuperCoach. 47 points in his debut last season for Penrith, 31 in base.
Yeah.
New South Wales Cup stats last year, not as appealing as I thought they were going to be. 22 games of playing 80 minutes. He had 6 tries and assisted 9, which aren't great numbers in a good team. He did have 110 tackle breaks, though, at 5 per game.
That's pretty good.
Obviously, that may not translate as much to the NRL, but it's very good numbers in terms of tackle bust. So, yeah, the risk obviously lies in it's just getting dropped. If he stays and keeps the fullback role and he averages 35 to 40, there's going to be good coin made. And I can't see him averaging any less than maybe 35 or something. So there'll be money. But I think there's also huge risk in if people don't start with him, well, first, if he comes out and scores well the first 2 rounds, they're going to have to get him in round 3 because he could have a break-in of negative 100 if he scores well. I think you've probably got to start with him.
I agree with you. I'm falling on my sword on this one, the first of a handful this year, if you're lucky. I think that if he goes, best case scenario, he does well, you're going to be left with no choice but to grab him. And even if he does averages 40 points, you'll still make a bit of bicky, then you can move on.
And you know what? Like maybe the play might be, because the issue becomes if you start with Owen, he gets dropped and you need to get rid of him, all right, how do you get up to a top dollar fullback and match the people that did do that start? Firstly, hopefully if he does go no good, there's another cheapy fullback CT dub option that we can, well, the beauty of that's where the flex comes in as well, right?
And this is the whole thing. If there was no flex to completely different, I think with the flex you have to do
you
it.
can get in anyone.
Yeah. And if someone was to come in, I think it would be young Joash Papali'i.
True. You go bang bang.
Or Lomax. Which, boy, you wait and see. If I'm the only motherfucker that owns Lomax and he gets moved to fullbacks, you guys are going to hear heaps about it. Skip the podcast that week.
Oh, God. And look, I know it's a lot of money, but let's say you do want that gun fullback.
Yep.
Pappy's killing it and you need to sell him by round 3 like Iongi. If you can find, 400 in the cap, maybe to a firing Ryan Pappenhausen, it's achievable. It's a fair bit. Reece Walsh is a bit over 700K. It's achievable. So it's not the end of the world if we can't get to him, and we need to sell him.
All right, I'm going to run you through some other names, just quick responses. I don't think we need to talk about them too much, but Jaden Campbell, any interest? By week 1?
No. We'll talk about him in the 5'8" conversation, though. You wouldn't touch him at fullback, but he's a 5'8" option. We'll get to him later.
5'8" is a tyre fire.
Yeah.
Clint Gutherson moving to the Dragons. I'm hearing a lot of people say he's going to lose cash. I think he'll stay around the same, to be honest with you. I think he's going to have a good season, Gutho, but not a guy I'd consider for classic.
Yeah, pass.
Chans, more of the same, I think. Hamiso losing Wayne Bennett. I have my concerns. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to get out of the Dolphins. Thoughts?
Yeah, not at all. And he's fullback only this season.
Yeah.
The value in him, like I started with him last year, it was fantastic till he did his hammy 5 minutes into a game in about round 5. His value was at CT dub, not fullback.
One that I am willing to watch in trials, if Fletcher Sharp is playing 5'8", I still think 630K is probably a little bit too much, but I'm going to keep an eye on him to see how that plays out.
Fletcher Sharp at 5'8", if he kills it, he's dual fullback CT dub.
Well, if he plays 5'8", though, I assume he'll lose one of those, won't he?
What have they done in the past? Do they add positions before round 1 or not?
I don't know.
I feel like they do based on what happens in the trials.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me if they do. Yeah,
because there's a couple that.
Okay, if Fletcher Sharp does that though, I assume he loses fullback. Then would you? Because
he probably plays 5'8" or wing.
Yeah.
Then so Ponga could go down. He could play fullback all year.
Yeah, Fletcher Sharp we'll keep an eye on.
Because Brimson's one that's CT dub only at the moment, but surely he gets dual before round 1.
You'd have to think so. Yeah. Connor Tracy's another one, mate. 587K. I think he can improve on that, but not a guy that I would be looking at. Is there anyone else on that list, mate, that sort of jumps out to you at all? Obviously, if we get a Ison or someone at the Cronulla Sharks, but I tend to think Will Kennedy's going to lock that jersey up. Maybe we can see a change later, but I don't see it at the moment.
We're going to do it at the top of the show, but we will just have a quick touch on on trials where that will come into it. But no, there's not. And there are a few more on the list, but they're dual position, and I wouldn't consider them at fullback.
Yeah, okay. Mate, should we rip into those teams now?
Yeah.
Want to have a look at them? All right, so guys, we've got 2 trials coming your way this weekend. I'm just getting those team lists up. Got 2 trials coming your way. They are both at Shark Park over 2 nights. The first game is the Sharkies and the Wars. Timbo, when I look at that Sharky side, I think they've rested most of their side that is going to feature in Vegas. Will Kennedy's obviously been named, which I find interesting, but Katoa's been named, Iro's been named, so it's not like he's a one-man band out there. So I cannot see them picking a young gun to go to Vegas and play. I think they'll go with Kennedy, and I think Craig Fitzgibbon's history screams he'll go with Kennedy. What do you reckon?
It was the only SuperCoach relevant talking point I found from the Sharks list.
Yep.
What I will say is that I think it shows that he's not locked in, because I think that if Fitzy was 100% set on playing Will Kenny in Vegas, why would he be playing this game? Like, there's no Trindle, there's no Nico, there's no Brayley. It says to me that, and there's no sign of them, but there's no sign of Dykes, there's no sign of Ison. It's a bit odd to me that he's playing.
Yeah, Ice and them aren't there at all, are they?
No, which is what... again, I think Kennedy's a fullback in Vegas, but... Is there a world where it is Ison or Dykes? Like, they're not anywhere to be seen.
Yeah, for sure. And this is where also, guys, with these trials, and it's weak, especially with these Vegas teams, it's hard to actually know what teams' strategies are as far as, will they play this week, next week? Do they just go straight into Vegas, et cetera, et cetera? So we're as lost as you guys are. But, something worth noting there. The only other one that I would say that I think is worth keeping an eye on in this Sharky team, and I don't know what he's at SuperCoach. Hamlin Welle played a lot of New South Wales Cup last year. He's starting in this game. Obviously, AFB's arrived. It's a very crowded front row room there at the moment. I think he's sort of playing for his career this season. He did very well in the New South Wales Cup grand final when I was out there. I actually kind of forgot he existed till I got out there and went, fuck, he's still got plenty to offer, this guy. So one to watch, but there really isn't much to take from that Sharky side.
Yeah, he's 304K. I think if he did come out and kill it, Fitzy would need to go with a utility on the bench in Daniel Atkinson to have a 3 forward bench instead. which historically he's gone with 4 forward bench, which would rule out a lot of Sharks forwards.
100%. Yeah. Let's have a look at the Wars side. Biggest talking point, mate. I went to say Dallin. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck named on the Sting. Very exciting. I think you mentioned this a few weeks ago. You were hoping for this. I would have played him at fullback personally, but I'm excited to see him play wing still. What are your thoughts?
I like him. I'm interested. I wouldn't have played him at fullback. I think you can get similar output from him on the wing. I don't think he's got great ball playing ability. I think Chan's ball playing is fantastic. I think this is the best setup for them. 3 games on the wing last year. He averaged 72 points per game. He did score in each of these. Obviously, I know at least one of those games because I can remember it. He played on SJ's wing on the right, which is a gold mine, as we've seen with Dallin over most years, except for last year when I owned him for too long. But, mate, he could come out and have 25 runs a game easily, Roger, from the wing.
Yeah.
I have question marks over the Warriors this season. There's a lot of turnover on their roster, but I like Roger on the wing. Like from a SuperCoach standpoint and NRL, of course.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I think it's a good spot to be. I think as well, I would say with SJ retiring and with, a halves combination of, we'll get to it in a minute, I assume Metcalf and Tomato Martin, I'm not confident in saying they'll be a right side, a left side dominant team or whatever. So I think that sort of squares that up a little bit. I would love to see him line up on the left wing outside Latrell, who's got those lovely hands. I'm interested in Roger, especially with this bit of mystery around Campbell Graham, whether he'll be fit. Roger could be a good little fit there.
He's 553K, and you add in Chance, who's been in and out over the last couple of years with injuries and certainly head knocks. They've got Tane Torpiki, who could definitely be the next choice fullback, wouldn't surprise me at all. But whether it happens in game or whether something happens to Change and Roger plays a few weeks at fullback where he can go nuts. I know he had a couple of games there last year and it wasn't as exciting as we'd hoped, but yeah, I think there's a serious merit to starting with Roger.
I'll tell you what, if you hear any word out of the Warriors or commentators in this game about Roger's roaming, you can just about lock him in.
I think he will.
Mate, I thought he would last year. He didn't really.
That's a centre though. Notoriously centres don't roam. We freaking love it. We talk about it every week.
Yeah, but I know internally they were talking about him roaming last year.
Yeah.
Like I was sort of hinted it was going to happen and it didn't. So I agree with you. I would do it. I think it makes complete fucking sense. But
I tell you what,
if we see it, I'm in.
Tell you what, I'd love to be in the stands in Vegas, having Roger at 7% ownership, crosses for a double, just has like 34 runs and just can't get his hands off the ball and just going wild.
Yeah, City wouldn't know what's hit it just quietly. That'd be terrifying. Let's move to the halves, mate. Lukey Metcalf at 7, Tomato Martin at 5'8". This doesn't overly shock me. I will say Tanner Boyd's not in this squad at all.
He has a niggle.
He does he?
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. I think Metcalf and Tomato Martin, whichever jersey you want to put them in, were probably the favourites all along.
Yeah.
I'm keen to see how Metcalf goes in the 7, big time.
Yeah, I had the same. I had Tamare and Metcalf as the halves to start the year. Certainly pressure on from Tanner Boyd, and there still will be. But from a SuperCoach standpoint, does the being named in 7 change anything for you? I mean, firstly, it means he probably gets dual by round 6, if not before the season. But output-wise, does that change anything?
No, nothing for me.
Yeah, same shit, right?
Not concerned. You're right, though. I didn't even think about the dual will be enormous. Yeah. That's great. If rugby league was a game that you didn't have to kick the football, these would be my 2 halves and I wouldn't think twice about it. I just worry about a long kicking game for this side who I think could be on the back foot quite a bit, which is where Tanner Boyd becomes appealing to me. But I think they are the 2 best footballers you can pick there. Mate, the other one I want to talk about is Laban. Fuck them, mate. They've been excited about him for a number of years. I sort of thought midway through last year he was going to come into his own. And I don't think this has absolutely locked him into this side, but I think with a good performance here, he can go a long way there. What's he at?
He's at 232K.
Thank you.
Oh,
Sign me up.
Do you think that suggests he's favoured to start on the edge?
I would say so, mate. I know that during last year he was very close to coming in on the edge. I think... Who else isn't...
So there's no Jackson Ford.
There's no Ford.
Which is big because he's a front runner to be a starting edge player. Neokor is on the bench, which is a good sign. But Jackson Ford's the main one.
Jackson Ford's a big one there. Yeah, mate, I just think at some point they've got to start to fit, like they've already lost Zion this week. They've got to start to fit some of these young guys into the side so they fucking stay there.
Yeah.
So that's very appealing to me. I think with a big game, mate, if he has a big game in this one and he can do well in trials, like mate, no one loves Jackson Ford more than me. I love him more than his parents do, but he hasn't blown it away over there.
No,
he's left a lot to be desired. So I think if Laban can come in and really explode, I think he can win that. Especially, mate, if you got Cape on the other side, I think you want another edge back rower that can really blow it away, do something special. So
well, I'll tell you, it'll be 100% owned round one if he starts on the edge,
without a doubt. Yeah. Aaron Clark, jersey 13, no shock here. Dylan Walker named in jersey 27, getting deep there. I don't think any of us are shocked by Aaron Clark in 13. They had options there. But it's
the fact that Walker's named in 27 makes me not want to read into it too much, right? Like,
yeah, I don't know. If I was picking the team, Walker would be my 14, Aaron Clark would be my 13 personally, and I'd bring Walker on to play that role. But yeah, we'll have a look at how the minutes. I'm sure we'll get more of an idea. The Warriors are pretty
he's also
open.
He's 391k.
Aaron
Clark's, which is awkward. Like he'd need 60 to 65 minimum.
Yes.
Which I don't think he'll get.
Yeah,
unless he's absolutely killing it. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Outside of that, mate, that's about it. You will get your first look at Jet Cleary in jersey 21. You also get your first look at Sam Healy playing against the Sharkies in 26. Let's move to the next game. Saturday night, we've got the Penny Panthers. It looks like we're having a McLean off on the wing. Jesse is a winger. He's an out-and-out winger. Casey is a centre, but Casey, I think, has come in and done what he did in first grade last year. Very, very impressive. Did what he did for the Kiwis as well. I would have Casey in front, but Jesse is the older one who is actually a winger. I wouldn't rule him out of it, but I think Casey will line up on the wing for the Penny Panthers.
I think after what he did for the Kiwis last year, right, you could nearly have to.
I think so. I think the other thing that I think the other thing that is that Brian Toto can play both edges, so you just pick whoever is the better option on whichever side. So I don't know. I think Jesse's going to have to do something pretty special to jump in front of Casey. But yeah, that'll be up to those boys this weekend. Interesting, mate. Jack Cole, Brad Schneider in the halves. No sign of Blaze. Are you assuming that locks him into the 5'8" role?
I think so.
Yeah.
They've named such a weak lineup. Yeah, I would imagine it'll be a Cleary Talangi round one just because he's nowhere to be seen.
Jeez, that shoulder's going to get old work.
Isn't it?
Out. Other one to talk about, mate, Isaiah Papali'i, also no shock. And not that this locks it in 100%, but he has been named on the edge. Can I throw something out to you?
Sure.
If I was coaching the Panthers, which I am not, to be clear, if I was... This actually makes me wonder where he's going to fit, because if I had an opportunity to pair Blaze up with a back rower in trials, I would be doing it every moment I could to test out combinations in his defense. He's decided not to go for it in this game. Yeah, I think people looking at that going, Papali'i's locked in the edge. I'm not convinced he is yet. If he was named with Blaze, I'd actually feel more confident about it.
It's a great sign for owners that he's on the edge, firstly, because I think the big question mark was, does he start edge or does he play that middle role probably off the bench? Sort of him or Scott Sorensen.
Yes.
Sorensen, who played edge last year, Sorensen has played that middle role off the bench in the past and won grand finals. I think if they were going to play Papali'i through the middle, they would in this and they wouldn't start him on the edge. I could be wrong. I might be reading into it too much, but that's how I'd feel. So I think it probably means he starts on the edge in Vegas, but the reality is it's a very weak Penrith lineup and he's been named to play.
Yep.
I do wonder, maybe is it like, all right, just trying to get some extra conditioning coming into this Panthers unit that is so well renowned for being just rock hard fit for round one. Maybe he needed it. So yeah, I think he starts on the edge, but it's not locked in, mate, no.
Yeah, well, and also, like, yes, he's named on the edge. Let's wait and see what his role is throughout this game, because it wouldn't shock me at all if he does shift into the middle and whatnot. So we'll keep an eye on that. Outside of that, on the bench, mate, 15, Harrison Hassett's a good young fella to keep an eye on. Jackson Edgar, another good player, 23. But yeah, not too much there. Your Durs, let's talk about them. Mate, I think your Raiders side is more about who isn't here rather than who is here. The first thing I love is that no Tamale in the back line. I absolutely love this guy. I think he will lock down a spot in your team. I believe Albert Hopewate got a baby due the week of Vegas, so he's withdrawn himself from that.
Yes.
So that will give Tamale the first opportunity. I personally think Tamale is good enough to hold on to that spot. He will probably be in my Supercoach side to start the season. What other takeaways have you got from there? Obviously, Owen Paddy's there, which I think that rules him out of Vegas if he's playing this one.
Basically just the question marks around Chevy Stewart, Ethan Sanders, Owen Paddy, these upcoming young guns, it probably just says that in Vegas, the Raiders line up with Weeks at 1, Strange probably at 6, Fogarty will be the 7. God knows what's going to happen at 9 between Levi, Starlo, etc. But I just think it tells us kind of the Vegas team, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, for sure.
The other one, mate, a little fun fact for you.
Hit me.
Number 4, Mania Watiri.
Yep.
Mania and I formed the 2021 Como Crocs halves combination.
Oh,
yeah, you like that?
Yes, I do remember this now. Yes,
took him under my wing and just taught him everything I know, and here he is.
Yeah, I actually caught up with him last year. He said you were bang fucking average.
Not as a mentor though.
That's good to see.
He's a legend of a kid, super talented footballer, and more of a sort of fullback, big ball running 5'8", quality player. So interesting to see him named at centre, but very versatile. So wishing him the best and keen to watch him run out. Like played a fair bit of cup in that, or a lot of cup last year.
Yeah.
Goes well.
Yeah. The man under that as well, number 5, Jed Stewart. He's Ricky's young bloke. I met him down at the nation's capital last year. Really good fella. Listens to the show as well.
Does he?
Legend of a fella, Jed. So good to see him get a go. Big, rangy thing. Fucking arms go forever. He's huge. Very good fella, though. As we said, Owen Paddy, you would assume him playing here means he won't play in Vegas. Just another one to keep an eye on is jersey 13. He's arrived at the Raiders this year, coming down from Newcastle, Miles Martin. Kid that I really like there, tough as nails. I think he's one of those real country boys, Timmy. I think he's going to fit in well, the Canberra Raiders.
The Raiders love a country boy, don't they?
And he is one of the best. Bad day to be a pig out there. He'll come for you. Matty Nicholson, the Pommy that's coming over. Have you got anything for us?
I don't yet, mate. Leave it with me. I think it's probably... he comes over from England. You want to get him a game in conditions, right?
Yep.
Like, get him used to, albeit a basic reserve grade standard game, but get him used to it, fit into the system, a few different changes. So I don't think him getting named impacts sort of selection for round 1 for Vegas either way.
Yeah, I think, But if we obviously know that there is a little bit of an injury cloud with Zach Hosking. So if it does turn out to be he's out for a little bit longer than we thought or whatever, Nicholson could become relevant quickly.
He'll probably come out and play the first half and that'll be him done.
Yeah, I'd say so. All right, anything else on those games, Timbo?
No, that's it.
We're good. We're going to go home. Thank you for joining us once again on Beers and Breakevens. Kangaroo hats coming out on Monday. Stay tuned for details there. Make sure that we're falling apart. A little bit of the set just fell down. Good to see. And yes, SC Playbook last night. Go and tune into that. And we'll see you next week where we will do something. We'll let you know.
We'll definitely do something, I reckon.
CT. Well, you want to do halves?
Where are we after? Have we done half of 5'8"?
No, we haven't done half and 5'8".
I reckon we combine half and 5'8".
Half and 5'8". Yeah. We're doing half and 5'8" next week. There you go. You guys are involved in the meeting. And we will see you next week. Thanks for joining us.